Hi, James.
How's it going?
Good. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Thank you. Your mom had called and she had set up the appointment for you. So I know that's kind of a little awkward sometimes, when
Yeah.
mom calls. But I know I've known you for so long, so I'm excited to see you and spend some time with you. So away from what your mom wants, I really just want to know what you want. I mean, what is your thought about our time together, and if that's comfortable for you, and if,
I mean, like I'm even legally adult. Like I'm
Right.
18 years old.
Yeah.
It's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's like borderline demasculating when your mother says, "Hey, let's go to some therapist." And I go, "Okay."
Yeah.
And then so I felt like comfortable coming to see you guys
Mhm.
because she's making me do this pretty much,
Uh-huh.
and it frankly pissed me off. But I'm just kind of like,
Understandable.
you know what? Like at least we'll talk to people that like love the same God as I do instead of just some rando.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. Honestly, if like what I want, if my mom's like making me kind of shovel through my crap,
Yeah.
actually I don't really want to be honest with you. I like to
Okay.
internalize a lot of things. I don't really like to talk about them. I leave through other people. I like to listen to people's problems and help them, but I don't like to help myself.
Oh, okay.
Which is probably not a good thing, but who knows. I think if I had to really sift through my issues and just kind of come to a conclusion, I would say, I don't know. I think I have a problem. I've kind of gotten to the point where I'm just kind of burnt out. Not with Jesus or anything, with my faith, because I do love God. I'm a Christian. It's just kind of gotten to the point where I'm kind of angry, and like I kind of had talked to you earlier. Like my mom had made me talk on the phone with you, like kind of like a pre-counseling talk. Obviously, I just feel like there's like this all-consuming like fire of anger that just continuously, and depression. It keeps wrapping. It's like kind of like its fingers around my throat. I feel like
Okay.
it's a very vivid thing. I'm
Right.
part kind of artistic, so that's kind of why I use different images like that.
Uh-huh.
Don't think I'm some weirdo, but
No.
I just feel like it's just like wrapping its hands around my neck, and it's just kind of been this way for like several years since I was a kid, and it's just gotten worse and worse. And then now it's kind of gotten to the point where like I'm so used to it, like to like think about relieving myself of that. I don't really want to be relieved of it because it just makes sense.
So it's familiar to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And was there any time, like, do you remember when you first started feeling it? Did it come because of something, or do you think of something else when that happens, or?
I don't know. I think ever since I was a kid, like I've known God my whole life, so He's obviously my hope and my Savior. And He's been like my saving grace, literally like one of the only reasons I've like stuck around. That's why I tell people. My mom, that's probably what freaked her out half the time. But really kind of affected me. I think I've just kind of had this like anger. Kind of all started with being bullied as a kid. I had a friend. I'd rather even say his name, but he basically just kind of, I'd go to his house and we'd like, he wanted to play like ninjas or something, like when we were kids. I was like, cool, we're boys, like we had to have fun. But he just like beat the crap out of me for like a couple hours a day. And he would just basically say that's like friendship, like me dressing up in his like karate gear, dummy stuff, and he would just drop kick me until like I almost was bruised.
Wow.
And I figured, this is still friendship. But then I would try to fight back, and then I was kind of the bigger kid, like kind of overweight and unconfident, so I would like end up hurting him on accident because if I fought back,
You would what?
I would hurt him
Oh.
on accident, and then I would get blamed for it. So I stopped fighting back, and I just let him beat me pretty much. So that kind of caused a lot of problems. Just kind of started being angry.
Can we stop right there just for a second?
Totally.
Because I think that's a big piece of maybe that anger. If you were younger and that was happening and you couldn't do anything about that, and you said you just allowed that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I was like actually 6, so I was really young. I have a really vivid memory. It's almost photographic. But I was 6 years old, and I remember just like having no friends moving from the north to the south, and I'm just kind of like, I guess this is what a friend is here, because I was from a totally different city and all that.
Wow. So with that friend, you had that friend. Were there other friends that you had that sort of were the opposite of that made you feel joyful, hopeful? Like you said, you've been a Christian for a long time. Were there friends in your life that represented that for you, that connected you with that.
Yeah, there were, but the issue was they like never really kind of stuck up for anybody. They kind of just faded in the background. Like they'd be encouraging with like your own issues, but I never really shared any of that before. So
Oh, okay.
that's kind of a new thing. But in general, there was no friends that kind of faced up to the bullies.
Okay.
So that's kind of my next step. I was just going to share with you is that when I was really angry, I kind of became a bully myself after all, and then I realized like that's nothing like Jesus. So I decided to go a different route, and I think it was maybe an overreaction, but I became the bully of the bullies. So I would like put the fear of God, I would say, in people, so they would stop hurting people.
Right.
And then I became kind of like what I had read in the comic books.
Right.
Like that was kind of like my new
Right.
image of who I wanted to be.
Right.
And I remember seeing Jesus die for our sins, and I thought, oh wow, to like bear the weight of the world on your back, like that's to be like Jesus. But then along the way, I think I kind of burned myself out.
So that you said you burned yourself out, so you've changed from that. You're not the bully anymore.
No, I feel like I'm not even like the anti-bully in the sense of hurting other bullies. My biggest burden in my life now is just like sharing the gospel, but also being like Jesus to other people in the sense of helping carry their own burdens too. Even though my own life is messed up in many ways.
So looking at Jesus, because Christianity and as far as your faith goes, it seems to be a big piece of who you are.
Right.
And then you have that other piece that you have the anger and stuff that you're saying that you feel that's sort of your passion. Sometimes you get into that.
Yeah. Almost an identity at times.
Yeah. And so looking at those two things and bringing those together, let's maybe use Jesus as an example. There were some things in Jesus that had both sides to that, maybe? Is there anything in the side of Jesus that had the sort of bullying side or whatever like that? Were those things, could you relate to him that way and being able to bring those two together?
Yeah, I guess. At that point, though, I knew who Jesus was and I had a relationship with him, I'd say, but I didn't really know kind of what I was doing. Maybe just to share a little more, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
My dad, growing up, was just like a big sports guy, too, even when I was in like the 5th grade. And he always wanted me to kind of like live out his dreams. But I never wanted to, and his big dream was for me to play sports and play football. So my parents had a lot of issues, and that's probably part of where my anger comes from. Maybe I don't even know. But I remember playing football, so that maybe like that would kind of bring my dad home more. And it did, but he's still very absent. So I think for me, kind of becoming what my dad wanted me to be was kind of adding to that pressure as well. And just, I felt like at that time too, the fingers got wrapped even tighter around my neck. What I described earlier.
Yeah, so the fingers are...
Anger, depression.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are those representative of what your father is to you? Is that what you're saying? Because you were talking about your father and then you talked about that.
I mean,
is that connected with that?
Well, I described you before. Me and my dad have like physically fought before, but I never look at my dad as this like evil character or something.
Right.
But
no.
like his presence, I mean, that could attribute to it, I guess.
But do you see people as good and bad, as black and white, or do you understand it to be sort of the full spectrum of the rainbow in a sense that there's some gray area in there? Do you see that in your father and your mother and yourself? Or I guess what I'm feeling is sometimes you're describing yourself as opposite ends of that spectrum. So where would you say you are in the, like from 1 to 10 in that spectrum, in your anger? Where do you think you would be?
Towards my father?
Okay, yeah, towards your father.
Currently, it's a lot better than it has been. At one point, which I told you, I got in a fight with my father to the point of like almost knocking him out. Like I threw him into a wall.
Right.
I'd say at that point I was probably a 9, like in the bad section. But now I'm probably more of like a 6. I still resent him for how he raised me, not being there, and I also resent him for how he was very absent towards my mother. I think that it wasn't very honoring to her.
Right.
I think I had to. I think I felt a burden to never be like in a perverse way towards my mom, like in the sense of like a husband. But I still felt the slack of picking up like emotional stuff that she had no one to talk to about. So I felt like that was my job as the man in the house. My dad worked a ton and just never really was home. So that was kind of a big issue for me.
So do you still feel like you are the man of the house?
Well, I kind of, paint that story as like we'd kind of gotten in like a quarrel once, and like I'd almost like basically knocked my dad out, and I just basically told him like, hey, you're not really a man, and you're not really the man of my house, so you need to kind of like shut your mouth. And I said like some pretty bad things, and for a year, like literally, I ran the show, even though I was like a 15-year-old kid. Like if I didn't want my dad to talk, I could intimidate him. But then you kind of had talked about Jesus being two sides of the coin. I saw the side of grace that really needed to be kind of brought out. So I broke down one day and I forgave my dad. And I forgave myself, and I said, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm sorry I did that to you. Because I'd read this one book my dad wanted me to read about being like a man or something. And it kind of helped me see perspective. It helped me forgive him. But I would say after all said and done, I'd be probably like a 5. I'm still kind of in the middle. I forgive him, but there's still a lot of resentment.
So is forgiving a part of the piece, going from the 9 to the 6 with your father? Is that part of that for you?
Like what God's like shown me in like the sense of like His grace for us, and yeah, I learned that at church. I think that's important to kind of emphasize in my walk with God, whether I like it or not. Being a Christian, I need to like be forgiving, but it's very difficult for me still.
You said whether you like it or not. Are there parts of it that you do like, that you find that it sort of lights in you, like, oh, okay, that's part of my faith, is because I sort of see, I sort of got what you just said, that there's parts of it that you don't like, but I'm trying to pull you sort of to a place of seeing the places that you do feel comfortable, that you do like, that do bring you joy, that do bring you hope, and that did bring you from the 9 down to the 6 with your father. You said that you've matured. I hear a maturity in you.
Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, though, as much as I wish I could give that credit to my dad, I probably still couldn't. I think really what did it was my Heavenly Father, just like really working on my heart and basically saying, there's no reason, like, you deal with anger and depression enough. Like, this is one area that, like, your family should be a place, like, my friend describes as a place of, like, really a lot of love. My friend Steven has, like, a really good family I've seen that they love each other really well, and I was hoping to, like, have that for my family, too, so... I guess I still feel a sense of a burden still of being a leader in my home, but I want to see my dad to be that leader. I want to empower him, but sometimes I don't know how.
Right. So we're going to go to the end.
Cool.
So I guess what I'm hearing is at the very beginning you said that you internalize a lot and you don't share a lot about what's going on within you. And through this time you've really... been sharing with me some of your internal feelings, not only feelings towards your mother and your father, but also your feelings towards your faith in God, and that how you've branched out with not only with your mother and father, but also the other kids, like the bullying and things like that. You've shown a maturity. You talked about a maturity in who you are as a young man, and you're 18 now, and there's still that anger that's happening with you and your father. Sometimes, but you are a man and you understand that you're going to be separate from that, but you still feel connected to him because there's been a lot going on between you guys over the years. And so I'm thinking, until the next time we meet, if you want to meet, I mean, I understand you're a young man and you're and I see younger till now, and all the hope that you've brought in. You've been able to incorporate your faith not only in what you said to me, but also in your relationships. You went from being bullied to being a bully to realizing that you didn't want to be a bully and changing that around. You've the relationship that's there, and it's still there's still that piece that you're still working that out. And I'm thinking that might be something that we could just explore different resources for yourself, spiritually, and then just you're a physical guy, and so maybe some other resources that we could look at, if you would be open to that.
Yeah.
But I want to honor you too, that you're an adult, and this is something that you would really want to explore that would be helpful for you. So that's my thinking. And what would be your desires and your sort of dreams sessions if we met if we met 5 more times,
Yeah, I would say I would say like would be helpful. Just like I think personal growth, even though like growth obviously hurts, to kind of like unpack more of like kind of that resentment I still would have like towards my dad, even though I know I shouldn't, and then. I would again still like to alleviate the like obviously we kind of just like even the way you've talked it's kind of helped me visualize what I'm angry about, like it's kind of helped me with that, but just like getting rid of like the depression aspect as well, because I really don't know what that means still, and I think yeah I would like to meet again if that's cool. I really don't want to go back to that secular dude that just basically was trying to like shove a bunch of Freud down my throat. But
Okay.
I don't know enough about dead people in history class. But I just really rather kind of focus on just kind of like making sure my faith grows during this, because I really don't want to be like a boy my whole life. I want to be a man, and like not just legally a man. So like that's kind of really my focus, I guess I would say.
I definitely see growth in you as a young man, and I mean that's what you showed me. So
yeah,
definitely, I would love to do that. We can make an appointment.
Cool.
That'd be
Alrighty.
Oh, I got to turn around now.
Yeah,
I was
turn
going to
around.
pause it. Okay.
Is it still filming?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pause it, did you?
No, it's still
Okay,
going.
no, it's still going. I think you did a fantastic job handling, well, just in general, I think you did a very good job. But he really came in, like, just like broke the dam quick, and there's this wall of rushing water, and you handled it really well. Like his very active personality coming at you with like here's like this, here's this. I think I already have that figured out. I have this, and you just like I don't know, like it felt like all this energy came into the room, and you just like kind of roped it in, and that was it's just you're a fantastic listener. You heard what you needed to hear. You ignored what you needed to ignore, which I think is also important. And you did a good job stopping him at one point. He was going on really fast, and you stopped. You clarified something, and really brought out its importance. And it really did seem like you were listening to the right things and listening well, and really did a good job breaking down exactly what you're hearing. I have no idea how to tell you how to improve. You were very good.
Aw,
Yeah.
thank
You had like a really good motherly aspect. I thought it was pretty solid.
Yeah.
If I was like 18-year-old kid, I'd feel pretty good.
Yeah.
I totally believe that you were like part of his church and like
Yeah.
had known him for a long time. You know.
Yeah, it was good acting chemistry. That was solid.
Good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You did a good job as your character as well.
Yeah, you
I
did.
tried to really get the character. So.
I was very impressed as well. A few other things to highlight that I think you did really well. I liked that, you listened to how important Jesus was to him, and then used Jesus as an example. And although it kind of threw him off at first, like he brought it back up later in the counseling session, which I think was really cool. And I think that you did a really good job helping him see the positive steps that he's made and the growth that he's made, and almost weaving a new narrative together for him, that since his life has felt such kind of ruled by depression and anger, that you were helping him see now his growth as a man, and setting goals. I thought was another really cool thing that you did at the end. And also that the way that you started the session felt really open and comfortable, and that you were just welcome to acknowledge the fact that this would be a difficult thing for him, since he didn't really want to do it. So I also don't really have any advice, because I think you did great. And yeah.
I like how you threw in the scaling question too. You kind of mixed the other solution.
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But then when it didn't work, you bounced right out of it. That was good.
Yeah.
I really do. I mean, you did a fantastic job.
Oh,
it was
thanks.
really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, and that's about it.